Hello everyone, this is Melanie from Melanie B's Creative Studio, and today we're going to talk about paint replacement. Recently you might have seen the video that I did on my order from painting parts. You may remember that I was extremely disappointed in my swatch. Now you also may notice that I have marked up my swatch like crazy, because what I did is I replaced almost every single paint in this palette. And I wanted to show you kind of what you need to do to replace your paints. Now you can use any acrylic paints, okay? The Arteza set is an affordable set. That's the reason I have linked you guys to that 60-piece set. But, you know, recently I have found the Schipper 36-piece set. And because of the colors in this particular painting, the Schipper paints seem to be exactly what I needed to replace the paints in this kit. So let's talk about step by step what I needed to do and what you need to do when you're going to replace the paints in a kit. So the first thing I had done is, like I said, I went ahead and swatched my paints. Then I realized, holy crap, I am in for some trouble. But I loved this painting and I really wanted to go ahead and paint it as an update on painting parts and their kits. So I had already circled the ones that I was going to need to replace. So I knew there was going to be quite a few. Well, as I was painting, I was noticing maybe the color was off a little bit on some others, and you know, it wasn't giving me the best coverage on an open large area. So what I ended up with was these right here that I was keeping. After painting for a while, I went ahead and replaced number 2 also. The colors in the photo online I really loved, so I decided when I replaced these colors I was going to kind of use this as a guide, but also the photo as a guide when I switched these out. So let me talk about real quick before I show you how I'm doing this. Let's go to our Schipper paint set. And I want to show you that before I replaced the paints on this swatch, I went ahead and just numbered the paint pots. A is 1 through 6, B is 7 through 12, C is 13 through 18, and so on. This set actually came empty, and these are ones that I replaced from my swatch. For an example, number 3, I put on the side here that I mixed a paint. So that means I mixed it and it's going to be here in this set of pots. These are mixed colors. So number 3 is number 3. Number 5, it says mixed, it's number 5. Number 6 says mixed, that's number 6. So you see what I did here? So number 10, I mixed it and it's number 10. 22 was a totally missing pot. So I just had to wing it and decide what I wanted that color to be. And so I mixed number 22, and here I wrote the recipe. I used A1 plus A2 in an equal amount and created number 22. So this got a little confusing while I was working, so I decided to create a new guide for us. So first of all, let me go back and say, for an example, number 14 in my kit, I totally replaced it with number C18. So I wrote C18 beside this number 14. That tells me when I'm painting, instead of reaching for this number 14, I'm going to reach for the C strip of Schipper paints, number 18, and that's my replacement. So I did that on all of the ones that I had a total replacement just already mixed in these colors. Now, because of this jumbled mess, I decided to design a very hopefully handy guide for us as a printable, and it's called the Paint Replacement Guide. So you can basically see that this is a little larger than our normal swatch guide. So you get 2 separate paint replacement guides to 1 page when you print these. So I'm going to kind of demonstrate how I'm going to use this. You can choose to swatch the paints again if you'd like to. you really don't have to. I mean, you can attach this to it, but what I would do is I would say, okay, this is what the original number 1 looks like, and I'm replacing it with D21 in my Schipper paints. So I would write Schipper D21, and then I would paint the new color here. So that's what I'm going to show you real quick. Before I started to replace any paints, I went to the swatch guide that I printed and painted for the Schipper paints. And I could look at let's say number 1, and say, okay, which one of these greens is most similar to number 1? And I decided that 21 was a little darker, but I actually liked that little bit of darker. So I went ahead and just straight substituted it. I'm not gonna mix anything. I just straight substituted number 21. Number 2 ended up, I decided in the picture that it was more of a deep brown. And they had sent me this baby doo-doo green color that I didn't like. You can see it here. It's kind of an olive, but it's a very deep olive, and it was very streaky. So I just replaced it with E30. So even though those are not the same color, you're gonna see the painting in just a second, and I'm gonna show you how that brown looks next to this. And so that is what I did to replace, and before I even painted anything. Number 14 was very close to 18, but 18 had a little more white in it, which is what made it a better coverage. This is not a true opaque paint, but it definitely has more opacity than this. I totally substituted that out. And you see how lemon yellow that is? There are very few flowers in the world that actually have that bright lemon yellow. So it was a beautiful alternative to go with this one. So that's how I came up with which ones to substitute with to begin with. Now, when it came down to the ones that I needed to mix, let's look at number 3 here on the original swatch guide and compare it to this swatch guide. So you can see number 3 is somewhere between number 34 and number 35, because you're gonna have to have a little bit of blue in that green to make it look like this blue green. So that is what I did, and my number 3 color turned out looking like that. Now, when I swatch these on my new paint replacement guide, we're gonna see exactly how the original looks compared to the one that I've switched it with, that I've replaced it with. So let's do that real quick. And I keep these handy while I'm painting, but now that I have designed this paint replacement, I'm not gonna have to have these. I can just have this one thing. So here is the painting in progress. And you can see that the colors are fabulous. They're vibrant, the coverage is amazing. They have a beautiful satin to glossy finish. And the yellows, although might be a tad bit transparent, it'll only take me a second to go back over and wipe a little paint over that number 15 and that number 14, and that's gonna be fine. But the rest of this has been so easy to paint because I switched out the paints with a great alternative, and that's the Schipper paints. In addition to the Schipper paints in the 36-piece set, I used paints from the winter landscape painting that I just finished with Schipper, and use those to mix these colors here. So you can use paint pots from other kits. You don't have to just use an acrylic paint set like this. I just happen to have it, and it worked beautifully with the colors that I had going on here. And when I do a side-by-side photo of this piece that I'm working on and the original, and I'm going to insert that here really quickly, you can see how almost exact the painting is next to the original photo. And that's what I'm looking for. That's the look I'm trying to achieve, is I want this to, even if it looked different than the original photo, I want it to look amazing and like I never switched to paint. You know what I'm saying? So once I have done this new replacement guide, we're going to talk about it and how I can go about and finish this painting. Like I said, if I had just painted this original one and it wasn't all messy like this, I can just attach this to the paint replacement guide and not paint this first original paint color at all. In fact, I might just set that aside so y'all don't have to watch me do that. And I'll go ahead and put the replacement paints here from the Schipper sets, and that's what we'll do. Now I'm about to swatch the paints, but I wanted to show you something really quickly. I have not mixed some of these lighter paints yet because I was testing them out using the originals, and I haven't decided which ones I'm going to replace, but let me just show you what I did. So I did not put anything down here on number 13 because I have not replaced it yet, nor did I replace 17, 19, or 20 because I don't have exact colors to just totally replace these yet, so I will end up having to probably mix those in along with number 24. But what I was doing is I was going ahead and painting the ones that I did have mixed and replaced, and then, like, for an example, number 10 is a little darker shade than number 17. So when I am done painting all the number 10s, I can add a little bit of white to that, and then I will create my number 17. Then if I do that, I will take alcohol and remove this number, and I will replace that number with number 17, and that will become my new paint for number 17. I'll do the same thing for 13, 19, 20, and 24 with just some of these other colors. Now I am going to show you a little paint mixing today, so I'll probably pick one of these two to show you that and to demonstrate how I did that or how I'm going to do that. But for right now, let me go ahead and get these paints on here that need to be swatched, and I will be right back. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is I'm going to go ahead and the numbers that I'm not replacing, I'm going to go ahead and use them to swatch. And I'm going to turn this sideways so I don't accidentally get my hand in wet paint. Okay. So these are the 4 that I'm going to continue to use. So I've just been putting them kind of down in my box over here with my Schipper paints. And now I'm going to show you how I'm going to mix number 20. When I look at number 20 and I compare it to other colors on my swatch, I can see that it's got a little bit of pink in it and a tiny bit of maybe some orange and a lot of white. So I'm going to mix this one a little differently than I have the others. So I'm just going to try a couple of different recipes, and that is how I'm going to come up with the color that I need. So just as a visual for you guys, I'm going to put a little tiny bit of the Arteza white, titanium white, and then I'm also going to do a little tiny bit of the light apricot from Arteza as well. Now this is not going to give me the exact tint that I need because this is going to be more orangey, but I'm going to take some pink, this really light pink that I have in the Schipper paints, and we're going to tint these 2 colors to match the one that is number 20. So I'm just going to put whatever's on my stirring stick here. And you guys, I have always got a link for the stirring sticks in the bottom in the description. so that you can find them because they're fabulous. Thanks to Cassandra Lopez, my buddy in the UK, who sent them to me. I never will know what I did before I had these. All right, so I could also have used a pink from the Arteza set, but the Arteza set is a little thicker paint, and I thought maybe if I mix some of this loose paint with these, we'll get it just the way we need it. So let's open this up so we can compare as we mix. You can see it's more pink than it is orange. If you just look at it like this, you can see that there is a hint of this orange, but you can see it's mostly pink. The tone of this is right. It's just the tint that is wrong. So I'm gonna add, I may not need white is my point, not for this particular mix. Now, normally I could do this in one of my mini paint pots, but I'm gonna mix it to see if this is the right recipe, and then I'm gonna add it to my paint pot. Now, I started with a lot more pink on my palette, but basically all I'm doing is trying to get the recipe. And so that is super doggone close. All right, so you can see it's still a little pinker than what I have here, but that doesn't mean I can't use what's in here maybe. I'm just gonna kind of put it in my paint pot. I'll number it later. I'm not worried about them being in order or anything like that right now. I'm just doing this for the demo, but I'm just gonna scoop that up and put it in there so that I do have some of it and I'm not wasting it. Now that I know I'm on the right track, I'm gonna add just a little bit. I'm wiping off the water. I'm gonna add a little bit more F32 pink from the Schipper paints, and I'm gonna use the flat side because it's easier for me to wipe off in the paint pot. But let's just add a little bit more of this. And I don't think I'm gonna need a lot of this, but once I get the kind of the combination right, I can always add more. And that'll be my plan. All right. I mean, I'm obviously gonna need more than this, but I want to show you how you can mix until you get it an exact match. Now, how perfect is that? That is like dead on the money, y'all. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and mix it in my paint pot so I have a little bit more. I'm gonna blob of that peach, that light apricot, and some people say apricot, don't hate me, depending on where you were raised. All right, let's go back to our number 32, sorry, 32. And let's scoop out some of this. Once I get this completely mixed, then I'm going to compare it one more time to our original paint. Dead on the money, y'all. And even if it wasn't, I'm not worried because nobody's going to know there was a tint lighter shade here, or, you know, nobody's going to know that.